Hello and welcome to the Sanctuary, a safe space to speak from the heart. I'm your host, Israel, and my guest today is social entrepreneur and co founder of Zenkara, Lynch. Thanks for coming to the Sanctuary today.
Thanks for having me, Israel. Nice to be here.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, everything considered. It's kind of with
Right.
a heavy heart, but it's good to be here as well and just share some space with you to talk about what's going on.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's so many things happening. And anyway, we'll unpack it. I wanted to start with this question. If you were not doing Sankara, if you're not running it, if you didn't find it, what would you have been doing?
That's a great question. I had always set out to be a teacher. So I went to
Oh,
school and studied history and French. And I had always realized that in our education curriculum, and when I say our, I mean Nova Scotia, as a person born in Halifax and raised there, we had very little. Opportunity to learn about our Indigenous history and Black history. So if I was doing something else, it would definitely be teaching and creating more students who are proud of their roots and their histories and connections, Indigenous connections to Nova Scotia. Those were all histories I had to learn myself. So that's what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing Sankara.
yo, that I mean, in a way, you are kind of doing that in Sankara too, right? Because you're educating people through food and crafts and arts. And let's talk about Sankara. What do you do? And what's Sankara about? How did you guys start that?
Yeah, so Zenkara is a platform to do just exactly what you said is bring people closer and make them feel more connected and open to experiencing different cultural perspectives through food and craft and like events. So a lot of what we're doing is creating links between vendors who have come from international backgrounds and chosen maritime communities to live in and thrive in and have their cultural products that they want to sell, both to make connections in the community and to make a living. So
Mm.
it's economically sustainable and culturally relevant for them to prepare their food and prepare their craft and use our website, which is sankaracuisine.com, to sell all of their goods to people who are opening their minds and opening their arms and trying to learn more about these different perspectives and cultures. So that's what we're doing at Sankara. And we started 4 years ago. So we've been really pleased and excited about the people's openness to participating in Sankara and joining the movement, I guess, if we want to call it that.
The word too, I was on the website and I was reading a bit about the word. Do you want to share a bit of that story?
On Sankara itself,
Yeah, the word, yes.
yeah, so we named our company Sankara after the revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara, who was a Pan Africanist and someone who believed very strongly in self determination and autonomy. And he was unfortunately assassinated by France, but he was the president of Burkina Faso in the mid 80s. But he really did change the course of his country's history and sort of their psyche. And we really want to name the company after someone whose values really we wanted to emulate. So with Sankara, we believe that anyone who's BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, a person of color, an immigrant, a refugee, someone who's from the global majority can come to whichever country they choose to live in, which Canada in our case, and produce their culture and have the rights and hold the ability to be the one to create their culture instead of having it be appropriated or having no ties to their culture once they land in Canada. So that's one of the major things that has kept us running is this idea of really embracing all that is you in all of yourself and all of your identities and all of those intersections and selling it and reproducing it to make connections in the
Mm.
community.
Yeah, no, that is super important actually, because you don't want to lose yourself. Like, sure, you love Canada, and Canada has given you opportunities. I'm talking to myself, but like, you don't want to lose like your language, your food, your culture, things that remind you, things that feel like home, even though you are building a new home here in a different country. So it's essential that Sankara does that. And here's the thing: you keep mentioning like culture, community, and having all these values. How did these values get instilled in you?
These values were instilled in me basically I would say through my mom and through the different communities that I am a part of. So I grew up like in Halifax with a single mom. She's my white parent with different, Euro roots, and my dad is Black and Mi'kmaw. So in my own sort of search for this connection to my identity and my community connections, it really took me through different chapters of learning about Indigenous Black history and culture, and also my Mi'kmaw roots from my dad's side and my grandmother's connection to Mi'kma'ki, which is, extends across Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. So I'm still sort of feeling connected to my community here as well in New Brunswick, where I am now. So I think
Mm,
it really came through a personal pursuit, but also my co-founder, he's from Nigeria and Cameroon. And so he has all of these really embedded and rich traditions in his Igbo tradition. And we wanted to make sure that people didn't just lose that connection to themselves and try so hard to assimilate and integrate into Canada in the sense of losing language and losing connection to cultural food, and really feel embraced in all parts of themselves. Because if you're not able to learn about yourself or reproduce the parts of yourself that are unique, then you begin to
mm,
feel disconnected. So personally, it was my own pursuit to know about my mixed identity, and then my co-founder being from like a very rich and ancient culture, multiple cultures in West Africa, and then coming
mm.
here. Everyone has a story, and you should be the one to reproduce and sell your story to the world. Everyone should have the right to like tell their own story and produce it, and if that can be produced for monetary value or artistic value or cultural value, then that's definitely what Sankara is after, with working with so many different vendors from different backgrounds.
How did you start it then?
That's a great story. So my co-founder and I moved from Halifax to St. John, which is in New Brunswick, and we decided to make some connections in the community. We knew no one here, so we made some connections in the community by selling his traditional Nigerian and Cameroonian food at a public market stall. So like kind of like Seaport Market, that kind of
Like,
thing.
yeah.
And we produced this food and just see how people would react to it and respond to it,
Mm,
since it was something that was really integral to like our connection, in our home. Bringing that to people and seeing if they're interested in spicy food or interested in, peanut stew, where you blend together peanuts and ginger and garlic and all of these different ingredients together to create something that has familiar ingredients but has a very different result. And people
mhm,
were really enthralled with like coming back to the stall and getting different food every week. So we
mm,
realized there was a demand, and once it became too cold to stand outside and serve food, is when my co founder decided to build a website that we could basically present the same options to the community, but an online market instead of a physical market. And there
mhm,
was so many vendors who were using that Sunday, market time to generate income and make community connections, that also wanted to benefit from joining the website, that we just eventually considered opening it up from African food to international and multicultural food.
mm. How do you choose the vendors that are on Sankara? Do they approach you? Is it the other way around?
It's every which way. Sometimes word of mouth has been really powerful, especially in Atlantic Canada. People are very apt to like recommend not only different products and different vendors that they enjoy, but different opportunities. So some vendors come to us and get signed up. Some vendors recommend to other vendors that they've had a good experience with us, so they come and get signed up. And there's no fees or any limitation like that we pose on the vendor for signing up. They do have to
Mm.
be food safety certified and cook in a licensed kitchen, but we work with everyone from every different background. So you don't just have to have your own restaurant. You can be an independent vendor and still work with us on our
Did you say
platform.
there's
But
no fee to join?
yeah, it's absolutely a free platform. So we are a social enterprise, but we are for profit. So the way that we sort of make our income for the company is that we charge a commission that's built into the price of everything on the website, but it's a customer
Okay.
facing commission. So unlike Skip the
Right,
Dishes and
right,
DoorDash that
right,
like
right, right.
really ping the vendors, we don't
Yep.
ping the vendors anything. We don't charge them anything. We
Right.
we charge the customer.
So I know my thing is $12, and then I'm paying Sankara, I don't know, 3%, whatever, and then client is paying, the customer is paying $15 or something, and then
Hmm.
that top goes to Sankara, and then I get my $12 all the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Oh.
So vendors get exactly how much that they deserve and set for their menu prices without being like price gauged. And
And is it like is the delivery service built in or
yeah, the delivery service is an additional cost. So once you go to the website and you plug in what you want for your food, we actually have a flat rate $5 delivery, which is really great, and we can deliver,
wow.
anywhere throughout HRM, Moncton, Fredericton, and St. John.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
but like he started in St. John or did they start in like how long did he take you guys to get into the Halifax HRM area?
We just launched into Halifax about 6 months ago, but we've been operating in New Brunswick for the last like three years or so. So
Okay.
that's how long it's taken.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst or what was the reason or what was the prompts that made you realize okay, it's time to go into Halifax now?
Oh, we want to make it a tool that anyone can use across Canada because there's so many different, people from various backgrounds, like especially in larger cities, that can just, if they want to make income on the side or start up a side business or maybe run it full time, they can just plug into our website no matter which city that they're in and then
Mm.
generate revenue right away. So that's why we're extending it across Canada. We're just starting with Atlantic Canada first.
Yeah. And actually your business, yeah, we had this thing happen 2 years now. Holy shit. March 2020. Well, it's coming up in 2 years soon, but March 2020, COVID started, things shut down. You guys were already kind of ready because you had this online platform. Did did you see any changes in service or customer demands once COVID hit?
Yeah, absolutely. We did. We saw a lot of people respond, favorably to learning and cooperating with ordering online. It was something that in Atlantic Canada wasn't that familiar to folks. So there's sort of a learning curve and people sort of readjusting to this new sense of operation, which is like working from home. If they weren't frontline workers, and some people obviously losing their job and not being able to work. So we did see people ordering like our meal boxes to give as gifts and to support their family members in different cities. So
Mm,
it was really a positive response that we received, and we were able to. Mainly, the goal for us is continue generating revenue for our partner vendors because a lot of them
mm,
they couldn't operate their restaurant, they couldn't go to the public market to sell things that they were still doing in addition to Zenkara. So we were able to really like utilize our platform to continue, and actually we expanded during the pandemic to Moncton and Halifax.
mm.
So it's actually been really great for us. People have been really supportive, but the other thing is I think people were just so kind of bored with cooking at home that they wanted to taste something else. And so
Mm,
our product allows you to sort of travel vicariously through receiving a box of different food, and it's already pre-made. So you learn about a different country and you can experience a different taste without really going anywhere.
mhm,
So that's one of the benefits too. So for example, like if you Israel were you're in Halifax and you order from Chef Salam, he's from Iraq. So you're going to open up your meal box and you're going to receive all these meals from Iraq, but you're going to receive a biography about Chef Salam and his photo. You see a menu, all the food is labeled, and it's a way of like you stepping into another place in the world that you might not ever get to visit, or certainly during COVID cannot visit.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, culture and community. Those are the two words that keep coming back.
Mm.
So when you personally, COVID, what things did COVID change for you? How was the first few months? At least that very first lockdown. That was nothing I've experienced before in my life for sure.
Yeah, for all of us, it induced so much worry and anxiety and uncertainty, that the only thing, I mean, I remember at one point, I'm not a professional art maker or print maker, but at one point I remember making a lino cut print, and the only thing I could think of, this is in maybe mid-April, is hope. Like the only thing I can think of is just hope, and just making this, being intentional about sitting down, making time, considering, what it is that's going to get us through. In addition to obviously following all the public health measures and staying at home, at that point, it's just like having hope and having belief that this is something that we can overcome.
Mm,
really did help me out a lot. And reading and connecting with family and video calls obviously are really important. So it's lucky that we have those tools available at our disposal. But
mm,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure this is not unfamiliar to you, like you keeping in touch with your family and just trying to keep your connections in your community safe and keeping them in your mind. Like,
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, Skype and WhatsApp. You know, it's funny because, like, for years and years, I've been using Skype just to talk with family and stuff, and WhatsApp. And, like, I didn't friggin' know what Zoom is, but from work now, Zoom is is everywhere. In fact, and this is just like a sidetrack. There's a video. It's like this comic YouTube channel, and then they
Mm.
made a video from the CEO of Skype. You should Google it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Anyway, so let's talk about you and your partner, right? You're multiracial, he's from Africa. How did you meet? And, like, were there any, I guess, was there a steep learning curve in dating someone that wasn't isn't from Canada?
Yeah. The way that we met was just we were both in school, and in Halifax, it's just easy to kind of like come across people and talk with them, and they're interesting. So that was how we met, just in Halifax. And we have definitely like very different backgrounds, considering my household was myself and my single mom. So it was not really very busy or chaotic or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the sense of like this sort of like individualism of having grown up in Canada in this context where everyone's taking care of themselves, versus my partner being from Nigeria and a family of six children and then two parents and then other people in the household. It's definitely a difference, but I don't think that there were any steep like learning curve or anything like that. It was just more openness and curiosity to one another's perspectives
Mm,
and the way that we both understand the world in through the way that we grew up.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had never come from any entrepreneurial background, but in Otito's case, and as is the case in like many Nigerian families and West African families generally, is like entrepreneurship is like the big thing. So everyone in the family was making their own business. So he already had a lot of experience with like customer service and sales and those kinds of things through helping his parents in their businesses. And that was something that I had never been exposed to before. So it's like he had a
Mm,
head start, you know, in how to run business. And it was really fun to catch up and learn and explore like how to run this business together. And it's
mm,
definitely a challenge when you run a business, you know, with your partner, like business partner and partner. But it's been like a really fun time. It's brought us to like Boston and Newfoundland and you know Ottawa, so it's like been a really fun time in like experiencing different places through like the business.
mm,
But also once I had a chance to like go to West Africa myself, it was an opportunity to like kind of put myself in the headspace of you know these busy markets and sort of the hustle and the pursuit, the individual pursuit, because the like lack of you know government support and really care for the people, or even knowing that a person exists or was born, is maybe not always the case. So me visiting there and just realizing the sort of system and society and how you know informal certain things were in the marketplace really
mm,
like helped me to understand like that sort of urgency and sense of drive that he has.
mm, mm, mm. Wow. You mentioned Togo. How was that experience?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was a really unexpected in so many ways experience. I lived in an area called Sotuwa, which is in like central Togo. Maybe for the purposes of this podcast, I would just say I live in central Togo, so people don't necessarily make all the you know connections and stuff like that. I don't know, personal things, but like or like security things. I think I wouldn't really
Mhm,
want to just say where I was, but in my time there, I just lived in a community and I worked with a locally run organization that did like a lot of women's leadership programs and women in business development, and I also just work with a local teacher to supplement sort of their English lessons. So it was for like a group of, you call them junior high students, but they're following like the French curriculum system. So it's called like CEG, and yeah, it was a really great time of connecting. It was a local professor that put me in touch with this organization that his friend had developed from Togo.
Oh, wow. So it's a good thing that you're bilingual then.
Yeah, yeah, it was really helpful.
And what was the reason behind that? Because you grew up in Halifax and like we don't really do French chance, huh?
Yeah, you don't really need French here. I grew up in Halifax in the North End. Like I went to the schools all through like Halifax North End and Oxford and St. Joe's and everything like that, and took French immersion. So, and
Why?
I think part of the I think every like African Nova Scotian should go and visit, West Africa and kind of get a sense, because there's most of our connections, if you do your DNA, is through Nigeria, Cameroon, those like regions along the Gold Coast, and or what was formerly known as the Gold Coast, to get a sense of like your roots and origins, just to have a connection back. I worked at the Black Loyalist Heritage Museum for a couple of summers when I was growing up. It's in Birchtown, which was once the largest free population of Black people outside of the continent of Africa. And
Wow.
I think everyone should get a chance to go to visit West Africa and spend time. Go to Ghana if you speak English. Go to Nigeria. Go to Togo. Go to Benin. Like, it's really worthwhile.
Wow. Putting your money where your mouth is really.
Yeah. When's the last time that you went to
A
Nigeria as well?
long time, very long time. Because I lived in Cape Town for a while, and
Yeah.
then I moved to Canada, and yeah, very long time. But still have roots there, and I talk to family as often as I can. Yeah. One thing you mentioned is there while you're in Togo, you did things with like women in business. That's something you do a lot of. Why is that important to you? Like joining these communities?
Yeah, and supporting communities where women are in business, and witnessing the way that women operate in business is really a unique opportunity to just see the way that our sort of we match like feminine and masculine energies, because we're operating in a system where it's been created like in a patriarchal structure. So the way that women and non-male identifying people show up in business is often different, and for different reasons, while it's economic reasons as well. There's other sort of like self validating reasons, and pursuits of doing it to show that to the younger generation that it's possible that we can show up in business. So I
Mm,
think that that those are a lot of the core values that even Thomas Sankara held as well, in that there is equality between men and women, but definitely the way that we do things and the way we arrive at certain places is we take a different route, possibly with the different energies that we hold as female people. So that's one of the things that I did notice. And um, when I was in Togo, it was a really great like opportunity to just witness like the amount of work and determination and selflessness also among like women supporting one another in business. And I think that really instilled in me like the ability of like, if women don't support one another in business, which there's sometimes some animosity or a competition and not wanting to work closely together, if we don't support one another, like no one else is going to be as apt to support us as we are for
mm.
ourselves. So that was something that I witnessed a lot.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Then building on that, you said your partner is the one that has the entrepreneurial background, the sales, the marketing, and but like you've been joining these communities and also educating yourself. And one of the ones that stood out for me was the marketing seminar, because it's from Seth Godin's Akimbo. He's a B Corp, and like I love what he says. It's just yeah. How was that experience for you, and what did you take out from the seminar?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand like the consumer's point of view, in marketing. I think a lot of businesses in sort of a previous generation have done things from a perspectives of sales and quotas and those kinds of sort of pursuits of more and more and more. But
Hmm.
really, I think the way that Seth Godin operates is really like a consumer centric understanding of what they're looking for, why they're looking for what they're looking for, what version of themselves that they aim to be. And then from there, kind of reviewing the lens that you can look through to be able to access them with something that really actually serves them and who they want to be and what their aims are. So
Mm.
I think one of my favorite things that he says is people like me do things like this, which is like a way of framing like who it is that you are serving or how you make association so that people feel more comfortable and more apt to see themselves in your product, see themselves in your service, or see who they can become through using, what you have to offer.
And your business embodies that fully.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I think anyone that doesn't have a business background sees things differently. Like if when you don't have a formal business background, you just see things differently, in the sense that we we are operating almost from a point of like naiveness before operating a business. And then
Mm.
once you have some time and have put in the effort of really knowing the business model and making efforts in marketing and actually having some experiences behind you, you can
Mm.
see just the way that, like, if you don't try and do experiential things, then you're never really going to be able to know. You can't just go and hire this or that consultant. You do have to have a repertoire of, I've done it myself, I have these catalogs of experiences, and then from there you make more advances rather than always hiring everything out to someone who's more of an expert than you. You have to kind of try and then fail forward and just see where it takes you.
Mm. Mm. And like, being a founder, you have to be pretty much everything for that business. Do you find this?
Yeah, it's absolutely the case. You're wearing all the hats all at once, all the time, and it's like definitely exciting and exhilarating, but it's a lot of demands also because you're never quite sure when the next maybe fire or alarm is going to go off, and you have to be there to address it, as you know. So it's kind of really exhilarating, but at the same time exhausting.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that exhausting part, right? Mental health is something that's also important to you. And like running a business, and like being multiracial, all these things all come into this one part. And it's all you have a co-founder, but focusing on you now. How do you manage it all
Mm.
and take care of your mental health?
um, I think that something that's really helped me with managing it is just, being honest when things are not going 100% well. I think that um, maybe in the past few years, people have gotten more comfortable with, really being open to the fact that, being not okay is sometimes okay, is always okay, I should say. So when things are like really tough, just being honest about them and being open and having like, containers and vessels in people that you really trust and love to be able to express like those, pursuits and issues that you're going through don't always look as luxurious or as put together as the way that the world perceives them, the external world. So having your own team that you can rely on to express your challenges with is big. And then I got a puppy in November 2019, so now she's just over 2 years old, and she's great. So taking her out for walks, fresh air, reconnecting with nature, and also like the more the more I intentionally put into pursuits of like knowledge and learning outside of reading business books or taking courses is really great for reconnecting with and like learning about, especially like my Mi'kmaw ancestry and my grandmother's stories, and listening to just different forms of, I guess, knowing, so that you can kind of, I try to reframe all of those and use them, in my everyday. So
Mm,
that's been really helpful, reading and experiencing different perspectives.
mm. Yeah, you mentioned, taking this, learning from your grandmom, finding out more about your ancestry and stuff. I'm wondering, being multiracial, what was that experience for you like growing up?
Yeah, I think that when you grow up as a multiracial person, and I think up until a certain time, it wasn't really something that I reckoned with all that much. I mean, I grew up in an area where like a lot of people look like me, whether they're like more have different like multiracial backgrounds, but in Halifax, it's a really common thing. Like the Black Scotian experience is in some sense an experience where you have some mixing at some point, just by virtue of the history of coming up from slavery and all of that. So there are people who do look like me, but I think that one of the major opportunities in it is that through like working at in Birchtown, I was able to reconnect with like my sort of history and identity, and really understand the challenges and resiliency that Black Nova Scotians and just our Black ancestors have been through generally, and that
Mm,
was really influential for me as a person of mixed race, especially when you grow up with like one parent, and that's not your parent, of color, and in many communities, like um, that's just the case. That's what happens.
mm,
So having my grandparents like be around for me to ask them questions, and for them to care for me and bring me into the community, like throughout Nova Scotia, Digby and Annapolis Royal, and like these prominent Black communities, and um, was really important. And I'm really grateful for like all the support that they provided me growing up and everything. I think that's a
mm.
big thing, especially in the Black community. Like connection with grandparents is huge.
Yeah.
They are such a big support system and such a big like way of containing knowledge from our previous generations, that if we didn't have them and we didn't connect with them, we just wouldn't know like enough about ourselves.
Mm. And now you are, through your business, through your social enterprise, you are giving back some of that knowledge, but also broadening it by bringing in other communities and cultures. Do you feel like that's a little bit of, actually not a little bit, do you feel like that's a lot of responsibility?
There's a huge amount of responsibility, and as someone who as someone who can also code as white in certain spaces and pass, in certain spaces depending where I am, I do feel that I have an immense responsibility to not always be the person who is like a spokesperson, or always has the microphone, or always is presenting myself in front of our audience, whether it's on social media or in the community. And I think working in Zenkara is, the whole goal is allowing other people opportunities to gain recognition and access to, resources, be it information, financial resources, and other links and ties for them to collaborate with other people, so
Mm,
that I can be more of a bridge than be a spokesperson, because I don't purport to know everything or anything about any particular experience. So having different people from so many backgrounds within Sankara is a real privilege, and it's an amazing experience to be able to witness what opportunities they also self generate through using our platform. And
mm,
that's really where it's at for me. I think if there's anything that people should really know, it's like that when you run a business that's a multicultural business, or business where you join people from different backgrounds at all anyway, you're going to witness like sort of a transfer of empathy and a transfer of understanding like between one another. And
mm,
it's an amazing experience to watch that happen, and to be part of it.
mm. And okay. That's true, because like, when you bring, it's like this melting pot, right? There's the chef you mentioned from Iraq, and then it's the people with the Ghanaian food or the Nigerian food, and then it's like this mix. melting pot of different cultures and everyone learning from the other person, because like I know what my place is, but I don't know how to relate with that person and their culture. But to be part of this beautiful movement, like you called it, I have to learn, I have to stay open, and I have to be also willing to accept what is shared.
Yeah, and in as much as it's a melting pot, I suppose, like in that we're a multicultural marketplace, like each person is so distinct. So, like for example, some of our partner vendors, I mean, because of the Canadian system and trying to get recertified from a career that you had in another country in Canada. We've had biochemists who are chefs in Zenkara. We've had mechanical engineers. We have a dentist who's a partner vendor in Zenkara, and she's getting recertified. She just took her exam last week to become a dentist again in Canada. But it's just all of these backgrounds. So no matter like if it's a cultural background or an affiliation with like a career or a pathway in your life of how you want to provide for your community, it's almost like this common ground that all of the people in Zenkara share is just
Mm.
the identity piece of that I am all wholly myself and everything that I represent from my culture, and I'm the one who can be able to put that forward into my community and be proud of like standing behind it. So that's a really, while it's a melting pot potentially, everyone's a distinct individual and is able to like really show up as themselves in Sankara, and it's really been awesome to see.
Mm. Wow. This is a wonderful educational period for me. I'm loving this. I'm enjoying this conversation. But I'm going to let you go with this question. Now you've built this movement from an idea your partner and yourself had, from the farmers market, I'm just going to call it that, from the farmers market in New Brunswick to now serving, working with many vendors and serving so much, like such a large area. What's next for Sankara?
I'm really glad that you asked what's next. We are in the midst of building, and I say we, my co founder and our team of web developers, software developers, are in the midst of building a brand new platform and also an application which will allow people to get closer to the root of our vendors. So we will be adding other elements to Sankara. So right now, sort of there's a tangible aspect of culture that people can access on our website, but with the new platform and the new app, it's all about like learning the intangible pieces of culture. So cultural dance
Ah,
will be added and language classes and knowledge from different backgrounds. So we're going to be broadening the scope of Sankara, and that's what's to come is a new platform that's going to extend beyond what we have now.
awesome. And what's the website again?
It is sankaracuisine.com, and the spelling is Sankaracuisine.
.com. Oh my God, Lily, thank you so much for coming to the sanctuary today and for sharing all this. I love the platform, and like it was great. It was, I didn't even know about this Sankara person, so that was an educational piece for me too. And I can't wait to see the new platform once it launches.
Thank you very much for having me. Really a pleasure to talk with you. And also wanted to shout out to Ingrid from WordCraft for getting us connected. And I think that is a great fit. I'm so excited to see what you do with all of your platforms and keep listening to your show. So thank you for having me today.